to your soul to have that encouragement. And you need an encourager in your life. And if you're dating, whoever you're dating, they need to be an encourager in your life. Eventually, whoever you marry needs to be an encourager in your life. They are praying for you. They are pushing you towards Christ. They are there for you. You need an encourager. If you don't have an encourager, then you need to watch out. Then you need to be careful. You need someone who is encouraging you, who is praying for you, who is pulling you to Christ. So what to look for in the one for girls? Here's what you need to look for in a guy. Here's what you need to look for in a guy. And we're going to be in Ephesians 5 here for a few verses. But one, you need to look for a guy who's a leader, who will lead you. And I'm not saying they're like the captain of the varsity football team or anything like that, or the president of their student council. But you need to find a guy who will be a leader. Because here's what Ephesians 5:22 through 24 says. Let's check this out. It says this. It says, "For wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the Savior of his body, the church. As the church submits to Christ, so shall wives submit to your husbands in everything." And then verse 25, go ahead and read. It says, "For husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. He gave his life for her." You need to find someone who is a leader. So Christ is the head of the church. Christ is the leader of the church. And the husband in a marriage, and this is what dating is ultimately going towards, is marriage. The husband is the head of the house. He is the leader. And if you need to look for a guy who will be a leader of the house, who won't skirt responsibility, who will man up and say, okay, it's not always going to be easy, but I will lead this family as best as I can. You need to look for someone who will be a leader. Do they have that quality that they can lead a family? You need to have someone who loves you. I know that sounds obvious, right? But I'm not just talking about because they hold your hand from time to time or they give you a hug. I'm talking about more than that. You need to find someone who gives themselves up for you. That's what verse 25 says. Husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church. He gave himself up for it. He needs to love you sacrificially. He needs to be willing to give anything and everything for you. He needs to sacrifice. He needs to love also your family. He needs to love your friends. Because I'll tell you what a good guy will do is he will embrace your family. He'll embrace your friends. He won't isolate you from them. He won't pull you out of those relationships and just be, well, it's just me and you. He will embrace your family. He'll love your family. He'll love your friends. If he's not loving your family and your friends, if he just doesn't like being around, disrespects them or whatever, then you need to watch out. And the same goes for girls, by the way. You guys, you need to watch out for girls who may try to isolate you from your family and friends too. You need a guy, you need a girl that will love and embrace your family and love and embrace your friends. That's what you need. You need girls, you need someone who will love you. Good guys, good girls will embrace those relationships. Bad ones, they'll isolate you away from them. And you'll be left with just them and no one else to be able there to support you. You need to look for someone who is humble and who is teachable. Proverbs 9:9 says, "Instruct the wise and they will be even wiser. Teach the righteous and they will learn even more." You need a guy. Your guys are stubborn by nature, but you need a guy who can at least admit, and guys know it's true. And don't try to tell me it's not. But guys know it's that you need someone who can at least be man enough to say, "I made a mistake. I need to learn some stuff." A guy who will listen to wisdom. A guy who will listen to instruction. You need someone who is humble, who is teachable. You need someone who is honest. We talk about dishonesty. You need someone who is honest. The Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in those who tell the truth. You need someone who is honest with you. Even if it hurts, they're honest with you. Even if it's not the easiest thing to say, they're honest with you. Another one, you need to find someone who is able and willing to provide for you. Guys, you don't need to be living in your parents' basements till you're 30, playing Xbox for 10 hours a day. You need, that may be you right now, and you don't need to be that when you're 30. But hey, you need to find someone who is willing to provide for you. If the man is the head of the house, then he needs to go to try to work. He needs to try to provide for his family. 1 Timothy 5:8, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Listen to that. Anyone does not provide for his relatives, especially for members of his house, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. You need to find someone who's going to provide for you, not someone who's lazy. You need someone who's going to take care of you, help take care of you, take care of this, whatever, family future family that you guys have. You need someone who's going to provide for you. You need a worker. You need a worker. I'm not saying that's their life. I'm just saying that they will provide for you. They want to provide for you. Not someone who's just trying to skirt by, and they're just trying to live off handouts all the time. But they'll work. They want to provide. They seek to provide for you. And then lastly, you need someone who will protect you. 1 Peter 3:7, in the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding as you live together. She may be weaker than you are. This doesn't mean not mentally or anything like that, but naturally sometimes girls are a little bit weaker. But she is your equal partner in God's gift of life. We're equal. Treat her as you should treat her. Treat her as you should, so your prayers will not be hindered. Protect her. Honor her. Guys, protect ladies. Protect them. Now, I don't just mean the girls that you're dating. I mean the girls that are in this room right now. Protect them. Honor them. Because we live in a culture. You live in a world, and you see it all the time in your culture, in your classes, at school. You see it on your teams. You see where girls are constantly being brought down, being degraded, being judged on their bodies instead of being judged on their hearts. Where if you don't look a certain way, then something must be wrong with you. You see so many Photoshop pictures of women on magazines saying this is what you must look like, and it is degrading to women, it is disrespectful to women, it is dishonoring to women, and it is not really seeing the beauty of women for who they truly are. And guys, you need to stand up for them. You need to protect them. You need to honor them. You honor them by lifting them up, by praying for them. You honor them. When you hear other people talking like that, you honor them by saying, that's not what's happening. No, sir. That is not what a girl is going to be defined as. And I'm not just girlfriends, but every girl in this area, you better protect them. You better watch out for them. You better do it. Do it. Protect them. Because you know what? They need you. They need you. They need someone fighting for them. They're already trying to fight this battle by themselves. They need someone fighting for them. So guys, you better protect them. You better fight for their honor. You better not let anybody walk across them or walk over them, tell them that they're not pretty because of this or that. Don't you let anybody do that. Girls, you are beautiful. You're absolutely beautiful. You need to know that. You're absolutely beautiful. Don't ever let anybody tell you differently. Because our beauty is more than skin deep. Beauty is about the heart. It's about the soul. It's about who God has made us. And that is where your beauty comes from. More so than just a physical beauty. And by the way, physically, I just think you girls are beautiful on the outside, but I think even more so you girls are beautiful on the inside. I think your hearts are gold. And so guys, you protect them. Girls, you know that you're always beautiful. If you don't have a guy that will stand up for that, and only looks at you for your body, then you need to get rid of them. You just need to tell them to step, because it ain't happening. So protect them, guys. Look for someone who will protect you, who will honor you, girls. Guys, what do you look for? What do you look for? It's funny because in Proverbs it tells us that you find favor with the Lord if you find a good wife, and so we want to find a good wife because that means obviously we're doing something right. If we would happen to find a good wife. So you need to find a believer. We've talked about this before, right? A believer. Or as Proverbs 31:30 says this, it says, charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last, but a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. You need to find a believer, but a woman who fears the Lord. More so, again, not somebody who just says, I go to church from time to time. I was saved when I was 6 and I haven't touched the Bible since. You need to find someone who fears the Lord, who's pursuing Christ as you are pursuing Christ, guys. So find a believer. Find someone who fears the Lord. You need to find someone who's modest. 1 Timothy 2:9. And I want women to be modest in their appearance. They should wear decent and appropriate clothing and not draw attention to themselves by the way they fix their hair or by wearing gold or pearls or expensive clothes. Listen, it's not speaking out just against jewelry. It's not saying, you shouldn't wear any kind of jewelry or makeup or anything like that. Modesty is a heart issue as much as it is an external issue. Because what modesty is, somebody who's immodest, they're not just trying to say, well, I want to wear skin-tight clothes. What they're looking for is they're looking for the attention. And guys, you do not need a woman who is not just wanting your attention, but wants the attention of every other man. You need someone who is modest. Not just clothing modest, but modest in who they are. Girls, modesty. More so than just your clothes. Yes, you dress modestly. You honor your brothers by dressing modestly. But be more about your heart. Now, I'm not seeking the attention of any guy that will pay attention to me, but I'm seeking, first of all, the approval of Christ. And if I am in a dating relationship, then I am seeking the approval of this guy, and I'm seeking the connection with them and joining with them, and more so than I am the attention of anybody else. Modesty. It's not just an external thing, but it is a heart issue. Be modest. Thirdly, guys, you need to look for someone. Hey, can you lead her? Is she someone who would follow? And you know, the Bible in Ephesians 2 or Ephesians 5 where we read, it says, "Wife, submit to your husband," right? And I was like, hold up, submit. I ain't submit to anybody. Ain't no guy gonna tell me what to do, right? You know, it's I get it. You know, it's not speaking. It's not saying that women are less or are inferior. That's not what it's saying. We are created equal in the image of God. We're all made in the image of God. But in certain things, marriage being one of them, there are certain roles that are meant that God has created. God has created man as the head of the house. He has created as head of the family, just as Christ is the head of the church. So is man head of the family. And it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands." And this isn't a slavery thing. This isn't like, your husband's got dominion. He can tell you anything and everything to do. It's not a slavery thing, but it is a role in which God has created for man and woman to follow. Is it someone who can lead you? And it's not a personality trait that you're looking for. It's a spiritual quality. It's a spiritual quality because ultimately they're not submitting. They're not coming under just your leadership, guys, but they're coming under the leadership of Christ. And so if they're not submitting to Christ, then they're not going to submit to the authority that God has given you. They're not going to fall in. You're not going to fall into that right relationship, that right role that God has made for us. And so, guys, can you lead her? Can you lead her? Listen, a woman will be submissive to the degree she is influenced by God's Spirit. And she'll be influenced by His Spirit to the degree that she loves Him and spends time in His Word. Women, women. Let's go back to women, not just girls, because you're young ladies. You want to follow the role that God has made for you. You need to submit to Him. You need to follow His Word. You need to be in His Word. You need to be in His Word, guys. You need to look for a lady that understands that, and their submission is as much to Christ as it is to you. You need to understand that. Do they have godly character? Proverbs 31, great chapter that speaks that many girls you probably know, but it speaks to hating evil, being humble, being teachable, being wise. Here's how I'll put it. When you're thinking of godly character, when you introduce her, would you be proud of her? Would you be proud to introduce her to your family? Would you be proud to introduce her to your friend? Because if you're not, it's like, well, why are you dating her in the first place? Because more than likely, you shouldn't be in that relationship. There's something not right about it. If you would be embarrassed to bring her to somebody or to take her to whatever walk around with you. So is it someone who you're proud you'd be proud to take home? Would it be somebody you're proud to introduce to friends to be seen in public with? Is it someone who hates evil, who's humble, who's teachable, who's wise? Is it somebody who is a helper? That's the next thing, is to look for a helper. Adam, in Genesis 2, God creates Adam and Eve, right? And He says, God said this. He said, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." And then He makes Eve after that, right? And so Eve is made as a helper, just as the wife is made as a helper to her husband. Is it someone who is a helper, who is going to help spur you on in your goals and in the direction and the calling that you are both trajecting towards, that you're both going towards? Is she a helper in that? Is she a helper in raising the family? Is she a helper in praying for you? You need to look for someone who would be a helper in the family, who would be a helper in taking the family and where God is leading you. And then lastly, you need to look for someone who is not a gossip, but is dignified. Not someone who's not a gossip, but who's dignified, and someone who is faithful. 1 Timothy 3:11 says, in the same way,